Yeah, family, as I was saying, what is it about me that is not okay with that confrontation or interaction? What is it about me that is missing that component of parental oversight? And I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I've been really, taking the time to really kind of digest it and, try to understand it fully, because I really want to be that parent. Like, this is not something that I'm just saying, and, it's not something that I really am adamant about. Like, this is something I'm really serious about. I'm really serious about being the best father that I can be to my children. Like, I want them to be exceptional. And I know they can't be exceptional if I don't give them the tools to be exceptional. I'm asking them to be something that I didn't give them the opportunity or the tools to be, right? It's like trying to tell somebody, I want you to be the absolute best plumber, and you never give them any instruction on exactly how to plumb. It's not possible, right? So it's the same thing. It's not logical that I should believe that they're going to be whole if I don't give them the whole story. So I really want to understand that, and I've been really digging deep within myself. And some of the answers I came up with was my lack of emotional attachment to things. Because of some of the things that I've went through in my childhood, I definitely have issues with attachment. Some of the things I went through even in my young adulthood has made me very unempathetic to attachment. It's made me be able to walk away from people and things without the emotion that should be, I would think, should be healthy, right? Losing a loved one or losing somebody that you really care about. So I think that may be one thing, but it's a lot, and I don't want to minimalize this topic, because I think that part of our whole process of healing comes through with how are we training ourselves to be able to exemplify the growth that we are speaking about. So how do I go within me to fully understand my lack of empathy, connection, and change that mentally, because now it comes out physically. Mentally, because in that, is there depression in that? Is there a sadness in that, or a ongoing, lingering sadness? I feel it, I feel a lingering sadness at times, like, damn, I really want to connect with my daughter, and I'm just not able to. Like, I try to shoot her some things, I talk to her, and she doesn't respond in a way that shows me that she's receiving that. So, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying. I just got to figure it out. But in figuring it out, I'm reading things and I'm going through things. I want to share some things with you that I did research, and let's talk about it. Like, maybe these things are helpful to you guys. Maybe maybe they're helpful. Maybe they can and will help at some point. And I'll just kind of look at some of the things. So because we need to be able to identify first, what are some of the reasons that parents that have experienced childhood trauma, or, like I like to say, negative childhood experiences. For some reason, I just don't like the word trauma. It just keeps to linger in something, right? And I'd rather it just be an experience that we can kind of get a new experience to circumvent or replace that last experience. Mentally, I think that helps to give the ability to change, as opposed to staying in a state of something, right? Trauma just seems to be forever, whereas experiences you can manage, and I like to know that I can manage these things that has happened to me. So parents who have gone through negative past experiences, negative childhood experiences, that feel disconnected. This is some of the things that they said, you know. This is from one of the books that I read. I believe this may have been from The Body Keeps the Score. I believe this is where it was from. I'm not sure though, but I can research and put some links in the chat, something like that. But like one of the things that I saw is attachment issues, you know, insecure attachment. Parents with a history of trauma may have developed insecure attachment styles, such as avoidant or anxious attachment, which can make it difficult for them to provide consistent nurturing care. They may be uncomfortable with emotional closeness, leading to inconsistent or distant parenting. I mean, that's kind of, you know, that kind of sums up, like, you know, an emotionally immature parent fear genuine emotion and pull back from emotional closeness. They use coping mechanisms that resist reality rather than dealing with it. They don't welcome self-reflection. So they really accept blame or apologize. How many of us don't apologize to our children when we do something? Like, truly, like, you know, and this is not, like I said, I know I don't always apologize, but what I can say is that I know that I have consciously started to apologize to my children, because I want to make sure that I'm emotionally aware of their need to know that they matter enough to receive an apology. Sometimes your immaturity shows up as emotionally unreliable, and you become blind to your children's needs, you know, because your own agenda is at play. Like, you're worried about yourself more, you know, and that comes from a book called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents by Lindsay C. Gibson that I'm reading. And I kind of use this as my notes, so I kind of read through it and then keep going, you know. You know, there's certain things like emotional numbing, which can cause trauma from the past can cause emotional numbing. You know, we have difficulty expressing our feelings, and therefore we become unable to connect with our children, and especially with their emotional needs, right? Because we're not even aware or dealing with our own emotional needs at this point. So these are just some of the things to be aware of, like when you are in these conversations with your children, or when you're having this feeling of, why am I feeling disconnected, or why is something being off? I want you to just consider that, you know, these are things that we can be aware of in the moment, and possibly change and work on, right? So emotionally immature parents may have impaired empathy. They have difficulties understanding their children's inner experiences, and they may be so preoccupied and unable to prioritize their children's needs over their own, because they're so busy trying to deal with their own things. I mean, think about it. We are emotional beings. You know, I go through a variance of emotions every single day trying to understand why and what and how. You know, how and how, why am I feeling this way? I try to sit in my feelings for a minute to just reflect. But sometimes, you know, the world and external circumstances get in the way, and, you know, they kind of impede on my solitude, so to speak. You know, but it's good to be aware of these things, right? And I'm just going to kind of read and just kind of show like how some of these things show up in us, right? Because, you know, when we are emotionally immature parents, we are preoccupied and self-involved. And I can say this is me sometimes. I'm self-involved. I'm preoccupied with my world. I can't even really let anybody else in. I'm constantly worrying about my needs. And then I have difficulty considering what their needs may be. And I want to change that, right? Because I want them to be emotionally healthy and not have the same burdens that I have. You know, that's really important for me. That's really important for me, you know? And I think we can do that by taking accountability. You know, not blaming others, not blaming our children, not blaming, you know, our past, our things on everything, so we can make excuses for why it didn't work, or why we, you know, why we're not connecting to them, or why they're, you know, sometimes we take things too personally. Sometimes this could be, you know, signs of, like, you know, low self-esteem, which low self-esteem comes from not being neglected as a child. When we were children, not being neglected, not being heard, and that could be the result of that, you know, low self-esteem. And then now that low self-esteem is now affecting how we're relating to our children. You know, we constantly seek reassurances from other people, right? But we got to get out of that. We got to get out of that habit if that's what we're doing. Think about it. An emotionally mature person understands that most of us can put our foot in our mouth at times. So if you misspeak, then you just turn around and you apologize, or you become aware of it, and you redact or change that statement, right? So that it doesn't feel that way. But that's what an emotional parent does, an emotionally mature parent, right? We sometimes seek comfort from our children. That's just a crazy one. We seek comfort from our children because we need them to worry about, to emotionally regulate us, because we have a dysregulation issue. You know? And some parents expect their children to meet their emotional needs. Parents may have the fantasy that their children will make them feel good about themselves. Think about that. Do you ever feel like I want my child to acknowledge me so that I can feel good about myself? Think about it. That's crazy. And then what are you forcing them to do to make you feel good about you? Because sometimes, you know, kids not aware of that. They're going to do what they want to do. And if they do that, then are we now mad at them for not giving us what we needed, what we felt we needed? How narcissistic or how immature is that? And none of these things I'm saying is to knock us, man. We parents, man. We make mistakes, man. We trying to learn. We trying to become better. But I'm hoping that somehow when we unveil these things, you know, these things give us insight as to things that we can be aware of, that we may not be noticing or we may not be doing. Like, you know, I would like to find, like, okay, well then, what are some things that we can do to help? What are some things that we can do to change this, right? So let me see what I have in my notes. And I'm just doing this because I really want to make sure that in all times, and I've said this before several times, I'm going to say it again, this is not about a pity party. I never want anybody to think that this is about a pity party. This is about growth. This is about understanding. This is about growing together and having a way that we can kind of heal from some of these things. But if all I talk about is what goes wrong, then I'm not talking about healing. So, you know, maybe we need to engage in some communal activities, you know, participate in activities that foster connection, such as singing, dancing, basketball teams, you know, engage with them, you know, be a part of them, be the coach, you know, promote what they call just right challenges. So create challenges for children that promote growth and resilience, but provide the support that they need to avoid becoming overwhelmed. Repair ruptures. Acknowledge that miscommunications happen and be willing to repair the ruptures and reconnect and grow. So this is something that Oprah said. I see it all the time. Someone makes one mistake or something they said a long time ago resurfaces and cancel culture takes over. No one wants to listen to each other. And in this book, she's reading it with, this is with Dr. Perry, they wrote this book together, which is What Happened to You. And Dr. Perry says the irony is that all human communication is characterized by moments of miscommunication. and getting out of sync, but then repairing things. So we got to learn to repair those things when we see them off tilt. You know, they say also parents should support their children's independence and individuality, allowing them to make their own choices and develop a sense of self. These are things that we can do to balance what we got going wrong, right? We want to make sure we're able to balance what we have going wrong. Promote open communication, creating an environment where everyone can express their feelings. So that's what I've been trying to do, and that's what I want to do, because I want to get better at that. Also, establishing boundaries. Establishing boundaries, you know, parents need to learn to respect the emotional and physical boundaries of their children. You know, avoid using, you know, your child as a confidant or emotional support. Give them the right to be children. Don't put that heavy burden on them, if that makes sense, you know? It's just a lot, and hopefully some of these things are things that we can be aware of, we can use in our everyday interactions, you know? Develop empathy. Man, empathy is huge, man. I didn't understand how huge empathy is, because I'm still working on that, because I'm not a really empathetic person, but I notice with children I have to be, and even just with my relationships with my friends, you know, I got to be more empathetic of what they're going through, and not just always be in my own grandeur and just saying, hey, they got to be my way or the highway type of thing, because then, you know, we don't have vulnerable interactions, which I think are necessary for genuine, sincere interactions. So these are just things that I think about, you know, focusing on self-regulation. How do we regulate ourselves? You know, we need to learn to manage our own emotional states instead of relying on the children to regulate them for us, you know? We got to be mindful, you know, do deep breathing, you know, just be aware, you know. Take a moment before responding sometimes. Self-regulation, regulate your emotions. Before you get charged up and just bounce and just blurt out an answer or blurt out a command or blurt out something, just take a minute and stop. Maybe there's some wisdom in that space, in that time. There's some wisdom, some healing words that might come out, as opposed to some words of demand or words that we can't take back the impact that it has on the child. Just things to think about, you know. Like I said, I don't think anybody has all the answers, but all the answers are available. I don't think everybody has all the answers, but all the answers are available. You know, there are ways and means of healing and growing. And this journey is about a way of healing and growing. And I want to be on this journey with you guys. You know, I want to be on this journey, and I want to expose myself, because I want people to tap in and understand I'm being vulnerable for a reason. I'm being vulnerable because as a parent and as a humanitarian, I want to hopefully heal people and allow for the next generation to not experience the sins of the father. So again, I ask, please interact, send me any comments. I'll respond as soon as I see it. I really appreciate the time that you spend listening. This has been another episode of Sins of the Father. I ask you to please like, subscribe, and share. And more importantly, share. If you found any value, share this with someone else. Because I want as many people as possible to be impacted by the growth, by the possibility of their own growth, about the possibility of their own healing. Because it's only through that that we make better decisions, and our children make better decisions and heal from that. So again, I appreciate your time. There's always love, healing, gratitude. And these are words of affirmation that I send to you and I put out there for ourselves as well. Thank you again for tapping into another episode of Sins of the Father. I'm your host, Ani I Am, and I'm signing off. Love.